Part 1. The Silent Era. Alright, let's go back. Way back to 3500 BCE, before paper and ink. Back then, if you wanted to leave a post, you didn't type it, you rolled it. Ancient Mesopotamians used these little things called cylinder seals. They'd carve a design into a stone and roll it over wet clay. Honestly, it's basically the great-great-great-grandfather of the printer. It's not exactly a machine, but it was the first time humans realized, hey, I don't have to draw this twice, I can just stamp it. But here's the catch. This was the silent era. There were no shortcuts. Every book had to be handwritten or carved into wood blocks. It was slow, it was exhausting, and if you made a typo, too bad. You couldn't just hit backspace, you had to start the whole page over. Sharing knowledge wasn't a click away, it was a workout. Part 2. Breaking the church's monopoly. In the 15th century, owning a book was like owning a private jet today. They were incredibly rare. If you weren't a king or a high-ranking church official, you probably lived your whole life without ever seeing a printed page. Knowledge was locked away behind iron doors. Enter Johannes Gutenberg. He wasn't just a genius, he was a bit of a tinkerer. Around 1440, he combined a bunch of random ideas to create the first real printing press. So, how did this thing actually work? It was a three-part system. The metal type. Instead of carving a whole wooden page, he made tiny individual metal letters. You could rearrange them to spell anything. It was like the world's first copy-paste. The oil-based ink. Old ink was watery and blurred. Gutenberg's ink was thick and sticky, so it stayed on the metal letters. The screw press. He actually borrowed this design from wine presses. Instead of squeezing grapes, he used a giant screw to press a flat plate down onto the paper with massive, even pressure. Suddenly, what used to take a monk a year to write could be printed in a few hours. The monopoly was broken. For the first time, normal people could actually own books. But there was a catch. Gutenberg's machine was a beast. It was heavy, it was made of wood and metal, and you still had to pull a giant lever by hand for every single page. It was a revolution, sure. But if we wanted to give everyone a daily newspaper, we were going to need something a lot faster. Part 3. Feeding the masses. Now, here's the crazy part. Gutenberg's basic design was so good that it actually stayed the king of printing for nearly 400 years. For 4 centuries, we used that same wooden machine to spread ideas. But by the 1800s, the world was getting seriously data hungry. Why? Because the Renaissance had sparked a massive fire of curiosity, and the American and French revolutions had everyone obsessed with politics. People didn't just want the news, they needed it to know if their government was still standing. Knowledge was power, and the old slow presses just couldn't keep up. Even Benjamin Franklin, the rock star of American printers, was basically using a Stone Age version of the press. It was manual, it was sweaty, and honestly, it was a total workout. If you wanted a daily newspaper for a whole city, you were out of luck. That's when we stopped using muscles and started using steam. But the real game changer was a guy named Richard March Hoe in 1843. He looked at the flat, slow press and said, "Let's make it spin." He created the rotary press. Think of it like a high-speed rolling pin covered in ink. By using multiple cylinders to feed paper through, he turned printing into a factory. These things were absolute monsters, 2 stories tall, weighing as much as a herd of elephants. They could churn out millions of pages, giving us the penny press. The first time in history a newspaper cost less than a piece of gum. Information was finally everywhere. But there was still one problem. Unless you owned a giant factory and a herd of elephants, you couldn't print a single word yourself. If you wanted to print at home, you were still stuck with a leaky pen. Part 4. From factories to fingers. Even though the rotary press was a high-speed monster that could spin out millions of pages, a human still had to sit there and physically pick up every single A, B, and C to build the sentences. Then, they had to curve those lines of text just to fit onto the giant rollers. That's when things got a little crazy. In the late 1800s, we got the linotype. Think of it as a giant mechanical piano that spat hot metal. You'd hit a key, the machine would grab a mold, melt some lead, and clunk it would hand you a perfect line of metal text. It was fast, it was loud, and it was literally a hot mess. But while the big guys were playing with molten metal, a smaller hero appeared. The typewriter. This was the first time you didn't need a factory to make a professional page. It was just you, your fingers, and a ribbon of ink. And right around the same time, we invented offset printing. Instead of metal hitting paper directly, which was messy, we started using a rubber blanket to transfer the ink. It made everything look cleaner, sharper, and allowed us to finally add photos in color. We finally had the speed, the keyboards, and the color. Between 1884 and the early 1900s, typewriters got better and better, becoming the voice of every office. But the dream was still to have the power of those giant factory machines right on your own desk. We just needed to get rid of the hot lead and replace it with something a bit more high-tech. Part 5. The Desktop Revolution. Alright, we've seen the giant factory monsters and the machines that spit hot lead. But then, a new king arrived: electricity. Over time, we didn't need steam engines or massive gears anymore. Power was flowing through wires, and it brought a whole new era with it. At the exact same time, computers were getting better, faster, and smarter. Enter the first generation of digital printing, the dot matrix. This was the loud-mouthed hero of the 70s and 80s. Think of it like a tiny, high-speed sewing machine. It had a print head with tiny pins that slammed into an ink ribbon to form letters. It was loud. It sounded like a robotic mosquito screaming in your ear. It used that famous tractor feed paper with the satisfying holes on the sides that you got to rip off like a zipper. It wasn't pretty, but for the first time, a regular person could print a document without a factory. This was when the printer and the computer became the ultimate power couple. They became two connected, inseparable parts of the same machine. If the computer was the mind, the printer was the voice. To keep that voice clear, we developed the inkjet. Imagine a super-fast graffiti artist hidden inside a plastic box. This machine doesn't just print, it sprays a literal mist of millions of microscopic ink dots every single second. These dots are so incredibly tiny that they're smaller than a single human hair, landing with perfect precision to build the photos and colors we see. But for the office world, we went full sci-fi with the laser printer. This one is a total genius. It uses a literal laser beam to draw your document onto a spinning drum using static electricity, the same kind of energy that makes a balloon stick to your hair. That electricity grabs a special ink dust called toner, and then a heater melts that dust directly into the fibers of the paper. That's why, when you grab a fresh page, it still feels warm and cozy in your hand. Sure, they still have a bad attitude sometimes. They jam when you're in a hurry and the ink costs more than a diamond. But think about it. We went from 5,000 years of backbreaking work to just click. We're done. Part 6. Layer by layer. So, we mastered printing on paper. No big deal, right? But then, humans got a little crazy. We looked at our flat 2D printers and asked, why stop at paper? Why can't I print a taco, or a house, or a new liver? Enter 3D printing. This is where things go from office supplies to straight-up sci-fi. Instead of just spraying ink on a flat page, these machines print layers. Think of it like building a Lego castle, but the printer is the one doing the work. It melts plastic and lays it down one tiny thin slice at a time. It does this over and over, layer by layer, until suddenly you're holding a physical object that didn't exist an hour ago. We've gone from rolling stones in wet mud 5,000 years ago to printing rocket parts and medical implants. The voiceless finally have a voice, and now, we have the power to create almost anything we can imagine just by hitting Ctrl+P. Next time your printer jams or demands cyan ink just to print a black and white email, take a breath. Remember, it took 5,000 years, molten lead, and a lot of sweaty inventors just to give you that Ctrl+P button. We moved from a world of silence to a world where everyone has a voice. Not bad for a boring plastic box. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.